Magandang umaga, good morning, and welcome to the Spring 2021 Komunidad Conference. My name is Raymond Rolland, and I'm currently FBANC Vice President and LGBTQ Committee Chair. I serve as a Deputy City Attorney at the San Francisco City Attorney's Office, where I defend city and county employees in civil rights and tort litigation. I'd like to first and foremost thank and recognize those in attendance today, our wonderful law students, judges, FBANC board members, and FBANC advisory board members. Thank you to our generous sponsors for this conference, the Dolan Law Firm and Farella Braun and Martel. Finally, I'd like to express my deepest gratitude to my Komunidad co-chairs, FBANC President Mari Bandoma Caliado, and FBANC Co-Director of Mentorship, Mary Beth Charvet. Without them and all of their hard work, this conference would not have happened. What a privilege and honor it is to be able to speak to you this morning and to be able to hold the third Komunidad Conference, still the first gathering of its kind in the country catered to the Philippine law student experience. It is a legacy that we started in person last year at UC Hastings Law School with over 100 energized attendees, including 50 law students and 50 lawyers from the Bay Area, excited to create and foster community and uplift our diverse and intersectional identities as Filipinx Americans. It is a conference we continued virtually in the fall, where we introduced the FBANC board to the community and continued through winter through our one-on-one mock resume and interview workshops. Hopefully, it is a conference that with the continued support of our community, we can sustain every year moving forward to ensure a strong pipeline of Filipinx leadership. 2020 brought a lot of challenges that continue to persist today. During the pandemic, we saw a lot of shifts in our community, experienced great personal and professional loss, and endured tremendous change that no one was prepared for. No one would have thought that our world would be upended by the coronavirus in such fundamental ways. But in the dark moments, we witnessed resilience, we witnessed bravery, and we witnessed courage. We saw communities stand up for each other and care for each other in meaningful and powerful ways. We saw organizations quickly mobilize and establish legal clinics and programs to help the most marginalized and affected by the pandemic. And we saw our law students rise up and overcome new circumstances that generations before them never experienced, having to completely transition their in-person law school experience to virtual learning. And more recently, we saw our country speak up and out against intolerance and hate and fight for justice. So the theme for this conference is pagdiriwang, or celebration, a recognition of the resilience displayed by our community in the midst of tremendous grief and loss. For as much as there is to grieve, there is much to celebrate. Each other, this space, this moment, and this community. So let today be filled with celebration. We have amazing law student moderators, speakers, and panelists. We will start the day with FBANC Foundation Treasurer Antonio Raimundo, who will speak about the FBANC Foundation and our upcoming scholarships. Then you will hear opening remarks from former McKesson Assistant General Counsel and Head of Employment and Benefits Law Group, Ted Boromeo. Then we will have a panel on interviewing for success featuring Richard Pierrota, Vanessa Candelaria, Amy Hamoy, and Suzette Torres, moderated by Blaine Valencia from UC Berkeley and Katrina Asuncion from UC Davis Law School. After lunch are law school specific breakout sessions led by our amazing student leaders, which will focus on self-evaluation and reflection during the pandemic. This session is followed by a panel on how to stand out as a law student and beyond, featuring Nelson Lamb, Delisay Nesperos, Alex Padua, and Crisel Reguro, moderated by Nicole Yavienko from Santa Clara University and Tiffany de Guzman from UC Hastings. Next will be a panel on meaningful mentorship featuring Jennifer Santa Ana, Mark Punzalan, Rachel Kinney, and Mika Domingo, moderated by Matthew Santos from UC Davis and Francis Asha from USF Law School. We will conclude the conference with a fireside chat between FBANC President Mari Bandoma Callado and the Honorable Audra Ibarra, the first Filipina judge in the Bay Area. These amazing panelists will speak candidly on these issues and share their experiences, and you will all have the opportunity to ask questions of the panelists at the end of each session. So we highly encourage that you take advantage of that opportunity. A final reminder for the conference, there will be specific links on the Komunidad webpage to access each panel and session. Also, please check out your emails regarding lunch vouchers and remember to sign in to the breakout sessions at 12:30. On behalf of the FBANC board, welcome again to the 2021 Komunidad Conference. We are all very excited for today's program, and we hope that you get as much out of it as we put into planning it. Thank you.
Good morning. I am Antonio Raimundo. I am the treasurer of the FBANC Foundation, and I'm happy to speak to you all, give you some background about the FBANC Foundation. So, the FBANC Foundation is one of two organizations that make up FBANC. The main organization that makes up FBANC is a nonprofit organization that's just called FBANC. But in addition to that, there's a separate organization which is called the FBANC Foundation. The FBANC Foundation is also a nonprofit, but in addition to being a nonprofit, it's also a charitable organization. And what that means is that you can donate money to the foundation in a tax-free way. So a tax-deductible way. So the foundation's purpose is to support the educational and professional development of Filipino and Filipino-American lawyers and law students in Northern California. So what does that mean? That means essentially the main thing that the foundation does is it raises money to support the students and the young lawyers in the community through scholarships and other activities. So this is a picture of our community from 2019. This was our barbecue. And you can see the law students and the lawyers. And this is what our foundation is about. We are supporting these people. We are investing money that our community raises into the future of our community, which is all the lovely people in the photo. So Maribeth, can you go to the next slide, please? Great. Funding sources. So where does the money come from? The money comes from our community. So here's some example. These are Filipino-American lawyers. I believe this is a photo from the Komunidad from last year. And these are the people who are donating money into the foundation. It's their generosity and their support that helps build up the foundation's funds, which we then get to distribute and invest in the future of our community. So here are some examples of the types of scholarships the foundation makes available. In recent years, the scholarships have increased in number and type, and we're very happy to offer a variety of scholarships each year. So some of the examples are the Raymond L. Ocampo Jr. Family Scholarship, which is supported through the generosity of one of the principal founder of FBANC, Raymond L. Ocampo. We have the FBANC Foundation Scholarship, which is supported by the foundation in general, just our general funds. We have the Charles and Melita Jung Charitable Trust Fund Scholarship, which is supported by a longtime supporter of FBANC, Charles Jung and his wife. Their generosity has funded this scholarship for many years. We have the Honorable Ronald Kidashay Scholarship. So Judge Kidashay is a Filipino-American judge. He's retired. We named this scholarship, which is funded by the FBANC Foundation, we named it after him in his honor. We also have the FBANC Bailiff Pamilya Scholarship, which was started as a joint effort last year between FBANC and Bailiff, which is an organization in the Bay Area that we partner with on this scholarship. And we also have the FBANC Honorable Eleanor Nisperos Scholarship, which is a scholarship that we offer for college students and people who are applying to law school. So all the other scholarships were for law students, but this last one is actually a scholarship we started offering last year. It's also funded by the FBANC Foundation through the support of our donors. But instead of being targeted at law students, it's a scholarship we offer to undergrads and people considering applying to law school. Instructions for our applications, instructions for the scholarship applications will be announced in March towards the end of the month. So please stay tuned to FBANC's website and FBANC's Instagram and Facebook posts and some emails. We'll be getting the word out towards the end of the month about how to apply for these scholarships, and we hope that all of you consider applying. Next, I'll talk about PABA. So PABA is the Philippine American Bar Association, which is based in Los Angeles. It's a lot like FBANC, except the headquarters is in Southern California. So they have a scholarship that they're announcing on their website, which I think is available now. You can find information at their site, which is philippineamericanbar.org. And it's also a scholarship for law students to apply for. And the deadline to apply is March 21st. So now I want to talk a little bit about past scholarship recipients, just to give the law students here some ideas about the previous people who've received these scholarships, to give you an idea about, what's it like to go from where you are to the future and where these scholarships can help take you. Now, the scholarships are our way of sort of investing in the future of our organization and in the future of our community. And you'll really see that with these recipients that I'm going to highlight, who are excellent examples of FBANC members and FBANC leaders. So the first one is Lori Rose Lubiano. So Lori is a past president of FBANC. She's currently the IP and product counsel at the Climate Corporation, which is based here in the Bay Area. She's a graduate of McGeorge in 2007, and she won the Raymond L. Ocampo Jr. Family Scholarship in 2006. So Lori's a great example for all of you. So you started in law school just like you back in the early 2000s. Then she became a lawyer, and now she's an in-house counsel at a great company in the Bay Area. And she's one of the people who won one of our scholarships. And so she was a leader of FBANC. She's a leader in our community, and a great person who's a great mentor to a lot of us. Next is Abby Ribamonte Mesa. So Abby's also a former FBANC president. She's currently chief of staff to San Francisco Supervisor Matt Haney, which is the supervisor for District 6 in San Francisco, which encompasses UC Hastings, which I'm guessing half the law students on this call are UC Hastings students, and this is your supervisor. And well, Matt Haney's your supervisor, and his chief of staff is Abby Ribamonte Mesa. She's a USF graduate, 2009, and she won the FBANC Foundation Legal Scholarship in 2007. So she's another great example, leader in our community, leader of our organization in the past, and one of you could be here in the future. And lastly, I'll mention Ray Rolland, who you just heard from. Ray is another superstar and leader in our community. He's a city attorney at the San Francisco City Attorney's Office. He's a USF graduate in 2014, and I think I might have screwed up the year here, but he won the Charles and Melita Jung Charitable Trust Fund Scholarship while he was in law school. And he's another great example of a leader of our community and a leader of our organization who won a scholarship in the past. And so I'm highlighting these people as just to sort of, point out that you all are in law school right now, but one day you will all become people like this. And we're hoping that you can apply for the scholarships and consider staying involved with FBANC, because our organization exists to serve you, and we really appreciate everyone's time here this morning. So with that, I'll close my presentation and pass it back to Maribeth or Ray.
Thank you, Antonio. The next portion of our conference are opening remarks from Ted Borromeo, who, as we previously described, was the former Assistant General Counsel and lead of employment benefits at McKesson. Good morning, Ted, and welcome.
Good morning, Ray. How are you? Good. Okay. Thank you to FBANC and to the leadership. I'm honored and glad to be here today to speak with you, law students and attorneys, and on a Saturday morning, no less, which is quite a commitment on your part. So thank you. The theme today is celebration. And while it may not seem like it at times, there is in fact much to celebrate. Ray mentioned COVID and how the community has been resilient in the face of that disease. But the glimmer of light that comes with the arrival of vaccines is a great cause for celebration. I can certainly relate. Yesterday, I had my second shot of the vaccine, so I feel great and I feel relieved. For others, the political changes in Washington is a cause for celebration. The belief and the hope that the dark days are behind us as far as politics is concerned. And then for all of you, the conclusion of college and start of your career in law as a law student or as an attorney is surely a cause for celebration. So this is an appropriate theme for today. As Ray also alluded to, you will hear terrific information from the panels that will follow. You will hear advice on important skills you will need to be successful as a lawyer, the value of mentorship, tips on interviewing skills, and you'll also hear from Judge Ibarra, and I expect that will be inspiring. So I hope you all stay and soak it all in. As far as my reason for celebration, this year would have been my 40th year practicing law, and I've been fortunate to have been blessed with a career that I could not have dreamt about when I was your age. My company, McKesson Corporation, moved to Texas from San Francisco at the end of 2020, and I decided it was that I was not going, and it was time to transition to the next phase of my life. However, I continue to be busy doing work with ongoing commitments I have to the Association of Corporate Counsel, the Bar Association of San Francisco, the College of Labor and Employment Lawyers, and of course, Catholic Charities. As I thought of remarks I wanted to share with you today, I asked, what would I want to hear if I were in your shoes? You know, many years ago, I was in your shoes. You know, I also was in my mid-20s starting out in law. So today, what I want to talk to you about is what I would tell my mid-20s self. I hope some of this will be of value to you. I hope if one or two things are of value to you, this has been worth it. So let's call this Ted's top tried and true tips for career success. I will say at the outset that career changes can often be serendipitous. You never know when an opportunity will come up. And when it comes up, however, you want to make sure you're best positioned to take advantage of it, to capitalize on that opportunity. And some of the things I'll tell you about today will hopefully do that. And in doing so, I will try to illustrate with my personal experience, you know, how that has happened. So the first thing I would want to say about my comments is that it's interconnected advice. It's not discrete items that I'll be telling you about. They're all kind of related. So keep that in mind. And second, it applies to whatever practice area you decide to pursue, whether you're a commercial lawyer, public interest lawyer, civil rights lawyer, or an employment lawyer, in-house, a law firm, all these things that I'll be talking about will apply equally in those settings. So here goes. Number one, it's a long game, all right? When I think about it, 40 years, 7 general counsels, and 8 chief human resources officers. That's how many I've supported in those careers. And what that means, or what I'm trying to impart by that idea that it's a long game, is that there will be moments of your career where you'll have setbacks and you'll have disappointments and you'll have to change course. But keep in mind or remember, it is a long game. So you'll recover, you'll be resilient. And so that's the first piece of advice. Second is manage your career. I guess it's in line with it's a long game. All right. I've always lived during my career with the idea that I had to have a 5-year plan or a 10-year plan. And I think I commend that to you. You should have a period of time where you check in with yourself. How are you doing towards your plan or to your goals? What changes do you need to make to align to that plan? So the example I have is when I started out at a small law firm that no longer exists in Oakland, eventually I wanted to be in the tech industry. So the first step I made was not to a tech industry company, it was a smokestack company, Kaiser Aluminum. And then I moved to the peninsula, a little closer to tech at the time. This was again in the 80s, and worked for Lockheed. And then from that was a springboard to my first role I really treasured at Sun Microsystems. But at each step, I had a plan, and I checked in with myself. What did I need to do? Was I on course for that to reach my goals? Number 3, to be a good advisor, learn the law. Okay. To be a great advisor, learn to listen. An acronym that a friend of mine had on LinkedIn was WAIT, W-A-I-T, which stands for why am I talking? And I think that's a good reminder. And it's not just listening to what people say, it's also listening to how they say things and what is left unsaid, because those things will help you be a better advisor. A phrase I often use when I'm working with a client is help me understand, engage me, talk me through. And then that makes me a better lawyer. So I commend that approach to you as well. Number 4, network. I have a secret for you. Most jobs are not found through social media or applying online. They're found through word of mouth. That's fact. And if you're not connected, connected with people, you're going to miss opportunities. The story I have is when I was leaving Sun, which was acquired by Oracle, and moving to McKesson. After going through the process of being vetted by the headhunter, I finally met the general counsel. And as I walked into the door, she said, Ted, nice to meet you. We were meant to meet. And I said, well, that's interesting. Why do you say that? And she said that the headhunter, in talking to a number of people to find out possible candidates, had been told by a number of them, talk to Ted Borromeo. And these people, who I don't know, were people I had developed as part of my network over the years. So I think that is the value. And one of the things you should be doing after today is connecting with me on LinkedIn. Start that networking process. FBANC provides a great opportunity. You'll meet your peers, you'll meet colleagues, and eventually, it's going to be a great value. So I commend that to you. As far as very specific kinds of networking advice, I would say attend conferences. And when you do go to a conference, introduce yourself to the speakers. What I like to say to people, it's not who you know, it's who knows you. And I think that's an important piece of networking. Number 5, develop a brand. And again, this is related to managing your career. When you think of Apple, you think of Nike, Google, and it conjures up certain images because they have a brand. So what is your brand? all right? When people hear your name, will they think of you, what will they think of you as a lawyer, as a person? And is that what you want them to think? Are they thinking of you as somebody who's responsive, thoughtful, analytical, a problem solver, or not? And if it's not that, maybe you need to work on that. And that's very important as you go on in your career. Number 6, very short comment here. Under promise, over deliver. Commit to deliver by Friday, deliver on Thursday. Number 7, give back to the community and pay it forward. You know, we stand on the shoulders of those who come before us. Ray mentioned Ray Ocampo, who I've had the honor of knowing. Ray was a couple years before me at Berkeley. I met Ray back then. He's a terrific leader and role model for FBANC. Bill Tamayo, many of you know. I've known Bill, again, since then. We all stand on the shoulders who came before us. And so be active in FBANC, help others, pay it forward. Number 8, be true to yourself, okay? Be who you are and not who you're not. And that I will illustrate with my own experience. When I was a junior attorney at a law firm, there was a senior or a junior partner who was more senior than me, who was very successful. And I thought, well, if I want to be successful, I have to act like him and be like him. But he had a very different personality. You know, he and I are still friends today, but his personality was much more dour, much more serious than me. And it was stressful to me. And only when I realized after a couple of years that that wouldn't work, did I change my approach. And I think that helped me in my career. So I commend that as well to you. Number 9, learn to have a good outlook on life and work. You know, step back. What's important? One of the advice I heard was given by that in that small law firm was from a senior partner, and I asked him, what's the secret to success in practice, in relationships? And he said, the secret to success is having a sense of perspective, a sense of proportion, and a sense of humor. And that's stayed with me all these years. And I think that's guided me. And it's terrific advice. And number 10, and last one today, is a book. It's a book called The Art of Advice, How to Give It, How to Take It. It's not just for lawyers, it's for anyone who gives or takes advice. It's no longer in print, but you can find it on eBay or on Amazon. The author is Jeswald Salacuse, Salacuse. I highly commend it to you. I've read it a couple of times. It's a quick read. It will help you in your career as a lawyer, which after all is all about advice. So there you have it. I think I'm renaming this Ted's Top 10 Tips, Tried and True Tips. Say that fast 5 times to be successful. So with that, I'll take any questions anybody has, if anyone has any, and if not, I'll turn it over to Ray. Okay.
Hey, Ted, thank you again for sharing your amazing story. I think it is one that we can all learn from, whether you're a law student or aspiring law student, or even a lawyer who's currently practicing. So everyone, if you have any questions, please type them in at the Q&A portion below your screen. But I guess one of the questions that I have for you, Ted, is can you share some of the highlights of your illustrious 40-year legal career?
Well, it's been a great run, I must say. One of the things that I will always remember is receiving an award, a leadership award at Sun Microsystems and it was given to executives, vice presidents and directors for pace, courage, integrity, and collaboration. And getting the award was certainly an honor, but what's even better honor was the fact that my team nominated me for that. And so that I really appreciated that. I think another one is just being inducted into the College of Labor and Employment Lawyers. That is an organization of employment lawyers who practice over 20 years from all sides of the bar, plaintiffs, defense, union, government, and have shown or met standards for professionalism and civility in the profession. So those are two. I guess on a more personal note, I was featured in a magazine, front page magazine article in Diversity Woman back in 2011 as men who championed women. And so that gave me great gratification for that. So, but there's been lots of things that, other than awards that I've just, I feel I've had a great career. I've had a great run.
Great. We have a few questions trickling in now, so thank you everyone for asking. I'll start with the first one from an anonymous attendee that asks, Ted, how did you incorporate your personal finances in your 5 and 10-year plans, especially staying in the Bay Area?
Yeah, I mean, I will say that it's much more difficult today than it was, 30, 40 years ago, right? I mean, with the cost of real estate, cost of living in the Bay Area is just so high. Maybe there's some flexibility. I don't know if people want to leave the Bay Area or would consider doing that, but that's certainly one option. I was fortunate. My late wife and I both worked, and frankly, that these days I think that was the way to do it. But that's an important consideration, right? On the other hand, I'm seeing great opportunities for lawyers outside the Bay Area. And I think that's something worth exploring if that's what you want to do.
Great. And we actually have a related question, which is, how should we look at our 5 and 10-year plans in light of the changes to the legal field brought about by the pandemic? For example, the rise of remote work and telecommuting.
The rise of remote work and telecommuting is a great opportunity. Because again, you're not bound by the constraints of geography. Opportunities are coming up outside the Bay Area. But as far as the top 5 and 10-year plan, whatever number of years it is, I think it's a constant check-in that you have. What's important to you, and is it a priority to be in the Bay Area? Are there sacrifices you can make? I will tell you that when I was at McKesson and also at Sun. And again, this is the in-house perspective. I can't speak to other groups or other practice areas, but the fact that somebody is willing and has actually relocated was a big plus. So that's something to think about.
Great. Another question is, what is one of the biggest mistakes that you learned the most from, and what did you do to recover from that mistake?
This is a tough interview question.
And thank you for being so candid with your responses.
Yeah, biggest mistakes. I'm trying to think. I think not a specific situation, but situations where I injected myself into a situation instead of, getting back to my point, listening to what the issue was. But injecting, because then you're not seen as an not impartial, but because as a lawyer, you need to be an advocate, but to be an effective advocate, you have to know the information. But if you don't let that process unfold, where you state your opinion, then you lose credibility. And it's all about credibility and trust. And, there's another point that I didn't make, but one of the things that I tell young lawyers is, trust is won with many acts, lost by one. That's an old statement, right? What I add to it is, but it gives you the benefit of the doubt. And so if you have trust, people will give you the benefit of the doubt. So I think it's when you violate that I think that's the situation where I felt compromised, if you will.
Thank you for sharing. We have another question. Have your sense of perspective and sense of proportion changed throughout your career? And if so, how?
That's a good question. I don't think so. It's all for me. It's always been about family, my family. I have two children who were in their 30s, and as I said, I was married many, many years. So they were always the priority. So everything, it kind of revolved around them. I was very fortunate. One of the things you do when you're looking for a role, again, wherever you're looking for a role, is making sure that the company or the organization that you're going to apply to or work for has values consistent with yours. And I was very fortunate that both at Sun and McKesson and Lockheed and in the Bay Area had very enlightened employee relations attitudes. That's not always the case. So I think, that's, the sense of proportion, the sense of perspective has helped me make selections like that.
And this question really speaks to a point that you made earlier about, that this is we're in it for the long haul. And so the question is, how have you avoided burnout throughout your long career?
That's another great question. I think there are times when you get tired, mentally tired. But part of it is the passion I have for the practice of employment law, and so that's, I think, helped me a lot. I guess one of the things that on that 5-year, 10-year plan is, are you doing what you really want to do? And so I've always felt that in fact, even today, there are days I wake up and I think, gosh, I miss practicing employment law day to day, right? Obviously, doing things other than pro bono work, doing things for the community, active in the profession, those things will help, I think. And then again, balance in what you do. I love to travel. I love to hike. I do that a lot. So I think that's what you have to do. You have to mix it up.
Great. I love that you spoke about, things that you do outside of the law that really ground and sustain your whole, holistic self. So that's wonderful always to hear.
Oh.
The next question is about networking. And the question is, what if a law student is not great at networking? What advice would you have for that law student to be better at it? For instance, do lawyers already know that networking is, part and parcel of the profession? And is it, do they already know that it's okay for a law student to be shaking hands with everyone? Or, what if someone's inherently shy? Like, what advice would you give in terms of effective networking?
Well, for a law student, I think that's what I said, making efforts wherever you are at a conference, an event of some sort, introducing yourself, listening. It does take an effort, but it's a skill that can be learned. I am innately an introvert, actually. But because I enjoyed the law and I enjoyed, listening to people over the years, I still remember this. I still have this distinct memory back in, after had been practicing several years, and I decided that's what I wanted to do. I made a conscious commitment to do that, to introduce myself, to attend conferences, to meet speakers, introduce myself to attendees, meet speakers, and then it started slowly with, gee, I think I can speak on this topic. I'm going to reach out and volunteer to be in a panel. And one thing led to another, and it over time, you kind of it comes to you. People come to you and ask you to do things, and so it's kind of self-sustaining. It does take an effort. I understand that it may not be in your innate personality, but it can be developed, and it's important to develop.
Thank you. And, at least for me, from my own personal experience, really the help of mentors uh, uh, impact that greatly. And really mentors for me have introduced me to people that I may not have otherwise had the courage to speak to, right? And so leaning on those individuals will also help, I think, in that regard.
I think that's right. They'll open doors for you. I think that's a great piece of advice, Ray. Yeah. Mentors and champions, right?
Right. The next question is, have you experienced discrimination in your career? And if so, how did you navigate it?
Yeah. I mean, so one of the things I had to do when my first in-house job was a smokestack industry, and my job was to fly to garden spots like, Ravenswood, West Virginia, and Bay Minette, Alabama, and Mexico, Missouri, and do labor arbitration. So I got, to meet a lot of people and so all types of people. Um, I don't want to, I don't let that bother me. I don't know if it's bother me the right word, but I just, there are people who are going to be who they are. But I do know that in time, working with some people may have started out that way, having that attitude, right? In time, working with them and showing them that I was a great attorney for them, I think overcame a lot of things. And so that's what I would say. I don't want to be naive about this. Those things do happen, as you say. And I've certainly felt it over my career, but I'm not going to let somebody else's attitude hold me back. And that was my attitude. So,
Thank you for that. This next question is actually, so part of our audience are not only law students, but also aspiring law students, right? People pre-law. And this question is, will my identity as an immigrant become a disadvantage in law school or in the legal field? This person, I think English is their second language, and they're not too familiar with a legal system. And what advice would you have for individuals in that, with that background, thinking about going to law?
I will certainly try to answer that in a second, but I think the leaders of FBANC, you, Ray, maybe you can have that. You're closer to law school than I am, but I don't think that should not be an issue. Well, I am an immigrant. I came here when I was 6, so I didn't see that as an obstacle. But I understand it may be challenging for others. But in this day where everything is interconnected from a global standpoint, right? It's much more so than 40 years ago. I would think it would not be as much of a challenge, but I would ask the FBANC leaders on this call to weigh in.
Great. I mean, I am myself an immigrant. I moved here when I was 14. Didn't know any lawyers growing up. And so I do think it can be done. I think it can be done successfully with the support of the community like FBANC and, relying on the generosity of a lot of people to really build you up. But it can be done, I think. And you're absolutely right, Ted. I think yourself, Ray Ocampo and other FBANC leaders have similar stories and are very successful in what they do right now. This is a great question, given your, your work history and your story. How do you know when it's time to move from one role to another? And how do you even arrange that transition?
Well, yeah, that's a good point. So I've made job changes over time. And at some point, at least, again, I'm speaking from the corporate world, being in-house. To move forward, sometimes you have to make a change. And so when I moved from the law firm, well, not the law firm to Kaiser, but from Kaiser to Sun, I thought it was time to move in order to make the next step up. And so I just kept my eyes open, developed the skills I knew I needed to be a qualified candidate for the next role I aspired to. And that's what I did. I made that change that way. It's part of that planning I mentioned.
Great. And can you please describe for us what your path was to becoming in-house counsel?
Sure. So as I said, I started out when I was in law school. My second year at Berkeley, I clerked with a law firm, frankly, to pay the tuition and the living expenses at law school. But it turned out that it was a labor firm, a labor and employment firm. At that point in my career, I didn't know what kind of law I wanted to practice. But I did that, and I thought, wow, I really like this job. I like this work. And I continued working there after law school for several years. And then as much as I liked the substantive work of labor and employment law, I did not like billable hours, and I did not like having to do business development. And those were the two primary reasons that I decided I wanted to go in-house. And also a broader practice than just what that small law firm could offer me. So being a company like Kaiser Aluminum, which was nationwide and had many, many locations and afforded the opportunity to travel, was very attractive to me. So that's what I, and then from Kaiser, as I mentioned earlier, I went to the peninsula to Lockheed because, again, my plan was eventually to be in tech. So that's the career path.
Great. Well, so I am mindful of time, but my last, second to last question is, where can we obtain a copy of Ted's top tried and true tips?
I'll tell you what, if you want, I'll put it in a document, Ray. I can send it to you, and you can send it to the attendees if that works.
Great, thank you. I think
I don't have it in a document, but it's easy enough to do that.
Oh, I had meant for that to be a joke, but if that's something that we can do, then, I think everyone will extremely benefit from what you've shared today. I said, whether you're a law student or a current practicing lawyer, I think these are all transferable piece of advice. So thank you so much. I really appreciate that.
Okay. All right.
Well, do you have any final words of advice before we conclude your remark?
I think my final comment, I guess, is it's a great time to be in law school and to be part of FBANC, having a great organization that supports you, more so than it was when I was starting out, just simply because there was not that resource back then. So I think it's great, and good luck to everybody, and good wishes.
Thank you very much, Ted. On behalf of FBANC and on behalf of the Bay Area PALS Coalition, we truly, truly appreciate the work that you do and your continued generosity and mentorship of our law students and lawyers. Thank you so much, and we hope to see you at an event in the future.
Looking forward to it. Thank you.
Thanks. So for everyone, we will be taking a break between now and 11, which is when our first panel on interviewing for success will take place. See you then.